The energy sector's green transformation. The world is at a tipping point. Climate change, global warming, and environmental degradation demand action now. Green energy and decarbonisation are no longer futuristic ideals. They are today's imperatives. Innovative companies accelerate the drive towards sustainability, which is reshaping our economy, industries, and daily lives. In today's programme, Executive TV explores the pioneering companies of this green revolution, delving into the current challenges, solutions, and the future of the energy sector. Orbis Environmental and Safety Consulting specialises in cost-effective compliance solutions, delivering professional service across sectors.
I have come from the engineering background and a safety bias, and kind of noticed that as a general industry, it's quite difficult to find people that can give really practical solutions to safety issues. So because of that appetite to change and work with clients to understand what they need and what they can do, that gave me a very unique perspective, so that when I set up a business back in 2016, the clients that I worked with really appreciated that level of integration and support. I kind of noticed that growth because I was able to appreciate clients' expectations and environments and resources to find solutions with them. That grew into becoming a more sustainable business model. And also then the clients' referrals would be quite beneficial. I'd work with one company who would work with another, and then they would bring me through the ranks to help them with that.
Greenwave Renewables are expert heating engineers, electricians and builders specialising in central heating, air source heat pumps and boiler replacements across Scotland.
On a day-to-day basis, we basically install air source heat pumps and renewable energy systems, just eco-friendly systems for the customer.
Me and David kind of had a history of working together. When I was first an apprentice, David was my tradesman. So I worked for David for years. We mainly focus on heat pumps. We're fitting roughly 3 to 4 heat pumps a week. Me and the other director, David, we're kind of on the tools as well, so we're also helping the boys out. But in the back burner, we're also planning the jobs, ordering materials, kind of working out the logistics, hotels and stuff like that.
Evergen Solar provides fully funded solar solutions for both commercial and residential properties, specialising in solar with battery storage.
Evergen is my third startup. My son and I, we looked at a number of renewable energy technologies and ways of reducing carbon. We looked at wind, CHP. There's a number of technologies which were being promoted. So we decided to settle on solar. The first thing I needed to do was understand solar. And we wanted to do rooftop solar. So whilst I engaged, our first employee was a guy with a master's in electronic engineering. So we understood electronics, but we had no knowledge of the rooftop work. So I then partnered with a guy who had a scaffolding roofing company. As a solar company, we actually invested in research and development. We've developed 2 pieces of technology, intellectual property, which we own, and we invested a huge amount of money and time doing that.
The UK government plays a big role in incentivising green initiatives, but gaps remain in accessibility and effectiveness. While helpful legislation has been introduced, more targeted support is needed to accelerate decarbonisation targets.
For governments, local and UK-wide, to support environmental compliance and environmental growth, there is already a system in place for government funding and government growth and investment. I would say that could be ramped up. I think the implementation of that is very, very good and should be continued, but it also should be a benchmark of success. And the fact that it's growing not only means that the technologies and the environmental impact is always improving, but the recovery of carbon and the capture of carbon and the safety aspects and compliance aspects are all growing and evolving. It's all been successful, and so that should be a measure on continue to do so. My personal opinion on it should be that we've measured how we're doing with environmental sustainability and improvement initiatives, and they're successful, and we could always improve and grow. More funding and more support. The regulations that are in place at the moment are very efficient, very good and very important. What I do see that there is a fair amount of bureaucracy and difficulty that makes it so that companies can sometimes be less competitive. Now, I'm not suggesting that we compare ourselves against emerging countries in Africa's, Asia's, because maybe the standards don't exist there. And so they can beat our services. You look at the steelworks, for example, they can always beat our prices because their labour laws are different, their requirements and compliance is different, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's right. What I would suggest, though, is we could look at what we currently do, because the compliance requirements ever evolve and ever grow, but we never see them shrink. And so there must be parts of legislation that regulators and enforcement could look at and withdraw. I'm hoping that happens over the next, say, 15 years, 20 years, because as technology grows and emerges, things are going to improve and things are going to get better, standards are going to improve, safety and compliance is going to be better. And so we could probably take back some of the bureaucracy and red tape around some things.
I think the government are doing well to reduce the carbon footprint. It's a long way to go. To meet the net zero goals, I think it's going to be hard, but I think it's doable. There's lots of government schemes out there to help people do this kind of stuff. There's lots of government grants available now, and it helps the homeowner with the cost of the installation. I think you get £7,500 off the cost of installation. And you can get an interest-free loan for the rest of the installation to cover the cost.
So we won a contract. It's the main government contract. It's called Warmer Home Scotland. So that's like over a £700 million contract. People that are in fuel poverty, that are affording to pay their bills and stuff like that, they're getting heat pumps, solar panels, insulation for free. So that's the government's taking that upon themselves to fit that in for free. Home Energy Scotland, you can go in there and you can apply for a £7,500 grant. So that can kind of pay for the initial cost of the materials for the heat pump. Obviously, getting a heat pump fitted is quite expensive. So you're maybe talking about double that for the full installation. So you can then further that with a £7,500 loan, which you can repay with 0% interest. From what I've seen, I think they'll reduce it significantly, but to actually reach net zero by 2050, I think it would be quite difficult. More for places like, say, like Edinburgh city centre, when a lot of the housing's tenements, like you're talking 4-storey flats and stuff like that, and it's not really viable to fit a heat pump there. All these flats or houses need to be properly insulated. So the heat pumps don't work efficiently unless the house is completely insulated. They already do a lot, as in funding wise, for people in fuel poverty, people with disability, pensioners, and also they'll offer grants for other people as well.
To many, sustainability has become nothing short of a buzzword. However, in reality, its implications are massive. Being sustainable is about conserving the planet for not only ourselves, but also for the generations that come after.
The main thing is it's obviously more sustainable, especially up north when people are using oil boilers, LPG, the emissions that's coming off that, it's just not great for the environment. The main thing about heat pumps is it's saving the environment, it's making a big impact. But it's just zero emissions, it's just running on electricity. So it's just like a fridge in reverse. It's taking the heat from the air and converting that and then heating the house.
Sustainability is important for a number of reasons, partially because we are always looking to invest in the future, and that investment comes from such a number of different angles. I think for all of us, for so many people around the country, we're looking to invest in a sustainable future for our children and our children's children, and making sure that the world that they live in is protected as much as humanly possible, and the energy sources are coming from the renewable sector. Sustainability in terms of business is really important as well. We're looking to make sure that our clients need us and our clients continue to need us, and we can only do that by supporting them as best as possibly we can. That comes through diversification, through being able to offer a range of different services to them. That comes through providing the best possible advice so that they want to keep on coming back to us and keep on engaging with that advice.
Sustainability concerns are very prevalent at the moment, and being able to use those emerging technologies, pyrolysis facilities, anaerobic digestion facilities, they're all really, really good ways of maybe offsetting some of our carbon emissions or some of our environmental impacts. And so I think from a technology, energy institutions and generally the right thing to do, I think they're fantastic. I'm also seeing the technology emerge to a point where it's becoming profitable as well. And so industries typically will hold off on these technologies until they're either forced to do it because it's really important and there is no alternative, or it becomes financially viable to do so. Over the years, because it's learning phases and some problems with the implementation of things, that cost-benefit analysis probably looked a bit bleak. But I'm seeing a lot more facilities start to learn from technologies and implement them, meaning that they become profitable, which means that will get reinforced into it to become something that they do more.
Traditional sources of energy are not really sustainable. With solar power, it's a sustainable source of energy, which is fantastic. On top of that, you're seeing a reduction in carbon emissions, which is highly important. And along with that, an improved quality of air. Bad quality air is the single biggest killer on the planet. It's often sort of ignored or pushed to the side because it's not any one particular person or body's responsibility. But harmful particulate matter exists in almost every airspace. And the move towards a sustainable energy source helps to impact that positively. So for me, that's a major win.
We are definitely an ethical company. Whenever we are speaking to potential customers, we have certain criteria that we go through, that we have to go through, and it's mainly so that we can actually advise customers as best we can. Unfortunately, solar isn't for everybody. So for example, if we know that somebody's going to move in 5 years, we know that a panel is going to have a 25-year panel performance warranty, we would always advise them ethically and say, actually, you should wait to invest into solar because you're not going to get what you should be getting out of it. You're not going to get all the benefits.
Switching to renewables isn't just ethical, it's also economical. On top of the environmental benefits, it can save businesses and homeowners a massive chunk of their energy bills.
Clients can save money on their energy bills by using high efficiency heat pumps properly. They can maximise heat pump efficiency by making sure their house is properly insulated, understanding how their heat pump works. It needs to be running constantly and not turning off and on. Well, the customer contacts us, we go through an initial survey, we do designs, we do heat loss surveys, we come back, we do the installation, we do testing, then we go a walkover with the customer, go through the handover, make sure they know how the system works correctly.
We have to jump through so many hurdles. We have to have so many qualifications. We have to be able to dispose of waste properly. We need to be seen to be doing all the things that, say, a green company should be doing. We have to be MCS approved. We need to have accreditation from so many kind of governing bodies.
The industries that Orbis Environmental Limited work with is quite diverse and ranged, and we've worked with a lot of companies including energy sectors and biogas sectors. So we've worked on a lot of anaerobic digestion facilities. We've become quite a specialist in that sector and that industry, and we're quite proud of that journey, and it's very interesting for us to develop and grow with that. We've also worked with a lot of pyrolysis facilities as well as hydrogen, both from a storage perspective, but also from the new hydrogen fuel cells and fuel terminals that we can introduce into the UK, as well as some of the nucleus facilities. And we've worked on Hinkley Point for a number of months, working on some of the hazardous area classifications and industries there. And so I find that we are becoming more sector specific as well as being specific in hazardous areas and dangerous substances, explosive atmosphere regulations, which gives us a very unique approach in helping our clients, because we aren't trying to be a generic company that can help lots of different industries and lots of different companies, and we really want to focus in on giving the best value to the customers that we're working with.
Our installations help clients cut back on bills through clean energy generation from using their rooftop as an energy generation system, the energy storage that we provide with it, and also what it does then is it obviously helps with their property, increasing the value and the saleability of the property as well. Customers that we deal with, their consumptions are ever increasing due to obviously requiring more energy as time goes on, that increases. So they're looking for smart, sustainable ways to deal with that, and obviously using our technologies and the AI batteries and all the stuff that we provide and renewable energy, we're looking to cover that for them in respect of using customised solutions that are bespoke to each customer. So we ensure the quality of our installations by adhering to UK standards such as MCS, NAPIT, we've got the validation scheme of EPVS, we've also got a quality assurance manager on site, and we have a good customer care team.
Decarbonising the grid is key to reducing emissions on a national scale.
The average person doesn't actually understand what decarbonising the grid means. Okay, so Britain is mandated to decarbonise the grid. That means no fossil fuels will be used to generate electricity by 2030. That's 5 years. Okay, what does that actually mean? So instead of our electricity coming from a nuclear power station or a gas power station, which you switch it on and it gives you constant energy 24/7, 365, we're now going to be relying on renewables. And as we know, both solar and wind, which are the majority of the energy which will be generated, are inconsistent and unreliable. So if you've got the energy generation going like that, okay, then you've got the demand which sort of goes like that, okay. Question is, how are you going to manage that? And that is a big challenge for governments around the world. So how do you then manage with inconsistent supply and an unreliable supply, where one day you could have too much wind and solar, the next day nothing? How do you manage that? The research we've done for our investors, and I've also been on these meetings which we had in 2021, representing the renewable industries. What we are saying, you do need two things. When you need distributed energy generation, and you need distributed batteries. At the same time, we are trying to decarbonise the grid and handle all of these other problems of inconsistent supply.
Renewable energy is quite diverse, with wind and solar energy being the main types utilised in the UK. However, as powerful and efficient as they may be, it is important to remember that they are intermittent in their nature.
Heat pumps are excellent because they reduce the carbon footprint and they reduce energy costs for the customer. I think the industry is booming right now. Customers are getting more aware of the carbon footprint. They're not relying on fossil fuels. It's just to make a greener planet, and people are more aware of what they're doing in the environment.
While renewable energy has significant benefits, it also faces several challenges, such as weather dependency. Solar and wind rely on weathered conditions, and this can lead to fluctuations within energy production. Another key challenge to renewable energy is the grid limitation and grid constraints with the generation, transmission and distribution of electricity to power sources such as renewable energy and in particular solar.
Anaerobic digestion turns organic waste into energy, offering a dual solution for waste management and power generation. Maintaining strict health and safety standards ensures its effectiveness and efficiency.
Approaching safety in the renewable sector overall is very diverse, and it's very evolving and ever-changing. And that's because the technologies are evolving and the industries are evolving, and there's also, certainly in the last few years, new technologies and new energy conservation programs and new energy efficient systems being introduced. Within anaerobic digestion industry, as well as many other industries such as pyrolysis facilities, the DSIR regulations, or dangerous substances, explosive atmosphere regulations, and the risk assessment that comes with it is so important because it stipulates the requirement and specification of equipment. Without going into too much technical detail, the risk assessment is so important because it'll dictate to us how much ventilation we need, what type of rated equipment you need, what procedures need to be in place, what training people need. And until we know all of the information from the risk assessment, we can't necessarily go and fix everything that needs to be done. So the risk assessment is a very, very important stage. Sometimes can be done from a design stage, and sometimes once the site's already commissioned and installed, we can visit, inspect and do the risk assessments from there. But overall, such an important aspect from it, because the consequences of something going wrong with a hazardous environment or hazardous area classification typically can be quite substantial. And unfortunately, within the UK, we tend to find every year or two there's a significant event.
The green energy sector thrives on skilled and well-trained teams. Investment in training and inclusive hiring practices is essential to meeting the industry's growing demands.
So the way we find the right people with the skill scope is when we initially receive the applicants, we have a screening process. So we call every single candidate that we think fits the criteria that we're looking for, try and have a conversation with them on the phone, get to find out a bit about them and what they've previously done. And then if they are successful, we invite them in for a face-to-face interview where we get to know a bit more about them, a bit more of the skills that they've had previously, what they're looking for, and whether they have what we want at Evergen. And we normally tend to have a taster day where we invite people back in for a day after the initial interview, because we think it's really important at Evergen for the employees to like us as well as us liking the employee. So if you're happy at work and you enjoy the team that you work with and you enjoy your role, you're going to develop better and you're going to be more motivated. So the taster days are one of the main things that help us know whether that person is going to enjoy the role and whether they're really happy here. When I'm recruiting, the unique personalities and skills that I look for are people who have a bit of energy about them, people who don't necessarily have to have specific skills within the industry that we're in, but people who want to achieve, people that want to develop, and people who have some goals that they want to achieve. And I think that's the best trait in people, because we want people to develop. And if they already want that, then it makes it a little bit quicker and easier for us to recruit those type of people.
Quality is the core of everything we do. We employ skilled professionals trained to the highest level. We install top-tier products with very high-class manufacturers.
Apprenticeships are vital, really, really vital. Sometimes when you get them young, they could be a wee bit pie in the sky, their heads are in the clouds, and you know what it's like now with camera phones and stuff, they're easily distracted. But I think getting them in young is great. You can mould them to then be the kind of worker that you want them to be. When we bring, say, a tradesman on board, they've already got their own working way. When we get an apprentice, we can instill in them the standard that we want straight away, and this is the quality of our work. We don't accept anything less. At the moment we're still quite small, so we are kind of like a family. We're like a group of brothers. We do spend more time with each other than a family, so when we're bringing people in at the moment, we like people that come in and can just slide right in. We've all got a great rapport. So we do look for people that are kind of enthusiastic about their work, that want to learn. That's basically it. So if you want to learn and you want to work, that's good enough for us. 100% apprenticeships can sort out the skill gap. It's just making, I think we have to push it more in the schools. I think there needs to be more awareness in the schools about apprenticeships, about trades, like all different trades. I think they're more pushed towards universities rather than practical skills. I personally feel like this is where schools let kids down. Everybody learns differently. All kids are all different. Everybody's got different skills and they all learn differently. So I think this is where they need to start bringing trades more into the schools so that the kids get a feel for it. They can find what they're good at and then they can go for it.
At Orbis, we're really proud of our team. We have a really diverse mixture of people and we've been able to recruit from lots of different backgrounds, bringing lots of different skills, lots of different attributes to create a really diverse and well-rounded team. Personalities over qualification is a huge, huge benefit to the right people for our business, for consultancies, because it's being able to tie up the knowledge that you have with the way that you approach sharing that knowledge that's the real key driver for us as a safety consultancy.
The future of green energy lies in continued innovation, collaboration, and investment. Companies within the sector look to diversify their operations, grow their teams, and continue the path to a truly sustainable world.
The plan for the next 5 years for Orbis is to continue to grow in the way that we have over the past 5 years, continue to diversify the offering that we give and continue to make sure that we're giving the best possible advice to our clients and supporting them.
We've already came so far in, let's say, 1-2 years, so we've won a few contracts. One's due to kick off next year. I'm hoping maybe 2-3 years' time, me and David could possibly come off the tools and we'll have 2-3 teams kind of looking at carrying out the heat pump installations.
Now, one day put a sign above it, a moving display, which says that today we'll be saving 17 tons of carbon. This week so far we saved 81 tons. This month, 317 tons, and this year, this much carbon. I'm driven by my original mission, which is to build a business which can actually reduce carbon every day and for the next 25 years.
The journey toward a greener future is a shared endeavour which unites the government, companies, and the general public in pursuit of a common goal, a sustainable planet. However, the work is far from done. By embracing renewables, supporting decarbonisation, and prioritising environmental compliance, the UK is on the path to a net zero environment. The question is not if this transition will be made, but instead, how quickly.